Hello everyone out there, welcome back to the Phantoms Fanatic YouTube channel. I am back with another review, and this review is of The Flash, released this year in 2022, starring Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Kiersey Clemons, Michael Shannon, and Maribel Verdú. And it was directed by Andres Muschietti, and the plot of The Flash is that when Barry Allen, the Flash, decides to head back in time and change the past to alter the future to prevent a family tragedy with his mother dying in the past, it turns out that he changed the future entirely and ends up in the wrong space. And he meets a past version of himself, which in circumstances, Barry himself loses his super speed, so he's unable to travel back to his time. And then General Zod makes his appearance yet again, once again played by Michael Shannon, and with the help of an elderly retired Bruce Wayne and a wrong Kryptonian that they're looking for, can Barry Allen save this new world he created, or will it all end up in catastrophe because of his manipulation of the timeline? Well, I should probably give my general opinion on the DCEU. I'm not the biggest fan. There's been a couple of the films that I've really enjoyed. I enjoyed Aquaman, The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad I've really enjoyed. And I have not seen either of the cuts of the Justice League or Batman v Superman, so I don't really have an opinion on them. But I have seen Wonder Woman, I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed Shazam. And we get this film that is kind of sending off the Snyderverse, if I had to say, because this is probably the last appearances of people such as Ben Affleck's Batman or Ezra Miller as the Flash. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in this. She appears for a small cameo. I don't know if she's gonna be in any more of the future. I hope she is, because she plays a really good Wonder Woman. But I genuinely liked Ben Affleck as Batman. Other people can disagree with that. And Ezra Miller as the Flash, I wasn't the biggest fan of from what clips I've seen of at least Snyder's Justice League. Not Snyder's Justice League's, the original cut of Justice League, the Sweden version, and I'm not the biggest fan of him. So when this movie starts and I'm watching him act with a very similar plot structure that I've seen in the CW Flash, which I really enjoy the actor that they have on CW Flash, and I think yet again, I think that is the best depiction of the Flash. This depiction, though, is not bad, I will say. I did relatively enjoy this film, but the weakest part to it, to me, was the first 30 minutes, because, I don't know, in all my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash, ignoring all the personal life stuff, because I'm just not going to get into it. I'm just going to talk about him as his acting. The first 30 minutes was not selling me on this film. I was not interested because I just seen this plot before in the CW, and I enjoyed it more in the CW. And especially when he goes to the alternate timeline, I do start to like it a bit more, especially when they introduce Bruce Wayne, once again played by Michael Keaton, returning. And to be honest, I enjoyed everything with him in this. I enjoyed Michael Keaton in this so much. I like all the stuff they do with him. They do one thing where I'm like, I don't think that if this was the same Batman from Batman 1989, he would do that, but I overall really enjoyed how they brought back Michael Keaton as Batman in this. He did a very good job, and especially working off of the two Flashes, because you get the alternate timeline Barry and normal Barry. And when they start interacting, and then when Zod shows up, is when I start to enjoy the film a lot more. But no, for the most part, I really enjoy what they do with Michael Keaton in this. He was the main reason why I wanted to see this, and he honestly was great in it, so I'm glad that he was able to return. Another one of the characters that are introduced is Kara Kent, Supergirl, and I genuinely liked her in this as well. Her story of, I'm not going to spoil it, but her motivation and story in this, I think, really was handled well. I enjoyed the idea that they explored with her, especially relating to Zod showing up. So I really enjoyed that, the idea that they explored there. And with what they do with the ending in this, it's like, I don't think they could use that character again, but I would have enjoyed seeing that character again. It's very well played, so I don't know. I was fine to me. And obviously this movie has been getting a lot of flack for its effects, which the effects are not bad. The effects are only bad when they try to do full people in CG. When they're just doing like the Flash's super speed, it looks alright. I'm also just not the biggest fan of the Flash suit in this and how it looks on Ezra Miller. Like the head and like how the mouth, like the opening around his mouth and how the head is shaped, it just looks so fucking weird to me. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. But also, they do something different in this rather than him. It's weird because the way that I'm used to super speed working is that the people are still running in their super speed. In this, it's more like he stops for a second and activates his powers and then everything is slow, which is a cool concept. It's just that when you have characters who look like people and you're having them move around in the CG environment, it looks really fake. Especially with the idea of how he travels through time in this, which I would say is a very creative idea. I like how they do it. It's very different than what you would think it would be. It just doesn't work very well because of the fact that we're seeing just CG people, and it really just looks fakey. But as I said, the other effects, when they're not showing people's faces and they don't have to do skin texturing, they look alright, especially like the lightning effects on the Flash and stuff, and all the stuff they do with Batman in this with his effects. They look pretty good. And then the plot in this with the timeline manipulation from the Flash, and even this is like said in the trailer, that you can't be messing around with the timeline and stuff like this, that it could have gradual consequences. The way they deal with that, especially with Barry kind of coaching this younger version of himself to become the Flash in the future, I think they handle it very well in this. And it does work out in the end, because you can kind of see where it's going, especially with a plot like this where they try to go back in time and change something. You can see where it's going to go in this, and where it does go, I actually really enjoyed the climactic scene that happens in this, and because I think they build it up well and what they do with it, it's an idea that I've seen before, especially in a recent movie coming out last year. I think this film handles it in a better way than that other film I saw did, with timeline manipulation and other things leading into each other. I think it works out more. And as I said, the comedy does land, a good amount of it doesn't, and sometimes the two Ezra Millers reacting off of each other, especially when they first meet, is really annoying. But later on, when they progress their characters, they definitely, it started to not be as annoying to me. And seeing Keaton back in the bat suit was really cool, so I didn't have a big problem with it. My other tiny problem is that as like an ending to the Snyderverse, they don't really give a lot of these characters a good send-off, especially Ben Affleck's Batman, because there was a moment at the end of this where they do a jokey thing, and it is a funny joke, I will admit. It made me laugh when I saw who it was, who they were revealing. But I do feel like they could have maybe told a more condensed, like, tighter moment between Flash and Ben Affleck's Batman, to where you kind of felt like, okay, I'm fine with them retiring Ben Affleck, because in my opinion, I liked him as Batman and Bruce Wayne. But and then obviously there's like multiversal things in this. I mean, that's kind of obvious from the trailer, and there are some reveals in this that I absolutely lost my shit at when I saw what was going on in this, and I absolutely fucking loved those moments. I'm not gonna spoil it, but there is a moment where they reveal something so funny to me in this that I like just laughed my ass off, and I was like, oh my god, it's that. And I love that they were able to reference that. They reference other universes in this, and I'm not going to spoil exactly what they reference, but some of the moments were nice, even though it's all CG, and yet again it leads to that bad CGI skin texturing, as I was saying. But yeah, as I said, this film is not perfect, but there were ideas that I enjoyed in it, And even though, as I said, the first 30 minutes I really was struggling to keep my attention. And as I said, some of the effects do distract you from the main narrative in this, but when it gets going, especially in its second half, it definitely gets a lot better. And if you enjoy the DCEU, AU, EU, CU, DC, the DC Cinematic Universe, you'll enjoy this. And I don't think there is nothing to learn from this. You can watch this and enjoy it. But as I said, the first half to first quarter of the movie was kind of dragging and annoying me, but it did get better. And even though I've seen this plot handled better on the CW Flash, especially in its earlier seasons, this doesn't do a bad job. And everybody, I think, is acting their best off. I think Ezra Miller gets a lot better in the last half of the film instead of the first half. And I do feel like this film could be trimmed down. It doesn't need to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Definitely does not need to be that long. But overall, I relatively enjoyed it. As I said, though, there were parts that I did not enjoy as much, but I think when the film wrapped, I was like, okay, I'm glad I saw that. And it does set up a few things for the future of James Gunn's cinematic universe, which I'm definitely more excited for. But yeah, I relatively enjoyed it. I didn't have too many big problems with this film, but as I said, with the fact that I was kind of annoyed for the first 30 minutes, and the effects being distracting in some moments, and the fact that we don't really get a good wrap up with some of these characters from the Snyderverse, I do feel like it is a disservice in that. But when it gets going into its own plot, and some of the jokes land, it's not as bad. I'm comparing this to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This at least tries to tell a story arc, and it does work, in my opinion. But yeah, I would say I would recommend it if you saw the trailer, thought it was going to be okay, or if you want to see Keaton again on the big screen as him, or if you don't mind Ezra Miller as the Flash, I would go see it. Or if you liked the Snyderverse and want to see how it wraps up, I wouldn't say this movie is awful. I relatively enjoyed it. So now it comes down to the rating. I'm going to give it 3. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Out of 5. And I did a community poll on the channel to see what you guys were going to predict my rating would be, and you guys voted that 3 out of 5 was going to be my rating, and that's what I give it. It's not awful, but there are things that I liked, and I think it relatively gets better in its second half to where I did enjoy it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to like, subscribe down below. Check out the channel. Sorry I haven't been most consistent with my reviews. I'm trying to get back into it. But yeah, obviously Dial of Destiny came out, but I'm going to work on The Last Crusade in depth before I review that. And then there's obviously other releases coming out. I got to see Elemental. I don't want to really see that Teenage Kraken movie, but probably the next review will either be in-depth Last Crusade or Elemental. Probably Elemental. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, check out the channel, and I will see you all next time.